Hello and welcome to Modern Otaku. Now, normally I like to focus on anime, manga, and video gaming, all stemming from Japan on this channel. But because this topic is under animation, I'm kinda just gonna cheat today and basically say this counts. I enjoy movies a lot, and I really enjoy animation, so this is definitely a topic that I want to talk about. Even if this topic is a little rough, to say the least. So, as basically everyone knows by now, Sony Pictures recently came out with the Emoji Movie, which is a movie based solely around the emojis from every smartphone in existence. Now, the idea of a movie based around the emojis just sounds dumb. But this is Sony, and there were some pretty big name actors and actresses behind some of the voices, including T.J. Miller, James Corden, and even Sir Patrick Stewart. But the trailer alone was absolutely panned on YouTube. Absolutely no one seemed interested in a movie about emojis, and really it seemed like Sony just tried really hard to appeal to a crowd that honestly just doesn't exist. Well, after what felt like ages of them advertising the thing, the Emoji Movie finally came out a few days ago, and amazingly enough, it was atrocious, absolutely awful, downright pitiful. For a small amount of time, it actually managed to hit a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but it managed to climb up to a whopping 6% when I wrote this script, and it now rests at 8% as of me recording this. Though, in the end, it still managed to make some money, and it came out to grossing $10 million on its opening day, beating out Atomic Blonde, which came out on the same day and only received about $8 million. While these numbers aren't huge box office breaking sales, it still says that the movie sold. It just doesn't necessarily mean it sold very well. Still, most people aren't interested in the opening day sales, and we can't even account for the lifetime sales during its runtime at the box office because, well, it's only been in theaters for a few days. People aren't interested in the numbers, they want to know about how good the movie actually is. Well, this is where it gets hairy, because the Emoji Movie sucked hard. It was not well received by critics or audiences, and nobody really seemed interested in seeing it. Of course, critics were going to go and see it to give their reviews for it, and there were the people that went to see it as a joke, but I can't think of anyone who was saying, "Oh God, I need to see this movie," when they saw the trailers, and believe me, there were a lot of trailers. The advertisements for the Emoji Movie were everywhere, from YouTube to Facebook and even television. I could hardly go a day without seeing some form of advertisement for the movie. And while I don't know how many ads other people saw, I felt like I just could not get away from them. With something so heavily advertised, I would have imagined more people would have gone to see it, but not too many people really went out of their way to watch it. Still, for now, it's hard to count the numbers with it being so new. Nonetheless, there is a good chance that it will remain under the radar, and, well, may even drop lower. Sony dropped $50 million to make the movie, and while I still wouldn't be surprised if it broke even at $100 million, it probably won't be what Sony was expecting for a movie that they hyped up this heavily. And this is exactly why the Emoji Movie is important. It goes to show that just because a movie company makes something that, in all fairness, should make them a bunch of money, that doesn't necessarily mean it will actually make that money. And even on a totally different note, it brings up how a company like Sony, being greedy and adding a shit ton of product placement, will backfire on them when they overload the movie with everything under the frigging sun. There are two audiences I could imagine this movie being for: internet culture audiences and children. But I still can't imagine either of those two audiences going to see this movie in droves. With a lot of reviewers on YouTube like Chris Stuckman, Jacksfilms, and Jeremy Jahns having all given their worst possible reviews, and more prominent reviewers on sites like Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert having destroyed this movie, anyone who looks at reviews online will probably decide to go see something else because, well, the movie got panned. The one thing about internet culture audiences is that they go on the internet, and most, if not all of them, will check the reviews for the movie that they're about to pay their hard-earned money on. No one wants to spend money on a movie that they know is going to be crap. Well, except maybe masochists. While I can imagine kids would be a lot more likely to go see this, I still can't imagine that they would actually enjoy this. The jokes in the movie fall horribly flat, and the movie is just boring as sin. So a kid would probably be bored watching this unless if they really liked the emoji jokes. Honestly, with Despicable Me 3 and Cars 3 still in some theaters, I cannot imagine parents will really want to take their kids to see the Emoji Movie when there are other movies that are far more appealing to the kids. No matter what, both intended audiences are going to be less likely to see this movie. And even if they do, they probably won't enjoy it, and will be less likely to pick it up when it releases to a physical copy, which will hurt future sales. I just can't imagine anyone wanting to pay even more money for this movie. The product placement is another thing entirely, and just oversaturates the movie with how in-your-face it actually is. Dropbox, of all things, is a vital plot point, while YouTube, Instagram, and Candy Crush are apps in the world that the characters travel to. Even the Just Dance app is in there, and I didn't know that a Just Dance app even existed until I saw this movie. There have been other times in movies where there's been a crap ton of product placement, and while for this movie at least it does make sense because, well, it is in a smartphone, these product placements are just overwhelming, and they couldn't even come up with funny ideas around some of these apps. Do you know what you could do with the concept of the characters going into the YouTube app or the Facebook app if you had some really funny writers? It could make for some really funny scenes that could work extremely well. These kind of jokes are easy to come up with, and they could easily be funny for a kid. But instead, all of the jokes fell flat, and in the case of the one Candy Crush scene, it was kinda disgusting. While I'm clearly not the aficionado to turn to when it comes to movies and animation and these kind of things, I think the Emoji Movie is important because of how badly it was received. It sends the message that no one wants to see this movie. And if they were going to make this movie, despite what anyone was going to say, the least they could do was give it some writers who could come up with actually funny material, rather than the garbage writing it was given. These actors and actresses are good, very good even, and they do a pretty good job for what they're given in this movie. Well, except Maya Rudolph as Smiler just did not work and sounded awful in my opinion. But for what it was, the animation looks good, and these voices are solid. The writing, pacing, and editing just needs to be worked on better. And I could definitely see this concept working if they did that. The Lego Movie, a concept that everyone thought was going to be trash, turned out to be comic gold, and it worked amazingly. So I could easily see this having worked if it was done correctly. However, even if they had done it correctly, I just don't think it would have sold very well, and it boils down to one simple thing. Absolutely nobody wants to see a movie about emojis. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. This is kind of unfamiliar territory for me, as I said at the beginning of the video. My channel is mostly based around the idea of anime, manga, and gaming, specifically Japanese gaming, and so doing a kids American film, I'm kind of going out of my comfort zone. But nonetheless, I really like what I came up with. I thought the script that I wrote was really well done, in my honest opinion, of course. And I actually got a big chance to edit a lot with more sound editing for this video. And it really gave me a good chance to expand my horizons a little. So I'm glad to be able to do this one. It's probably not going to be too common that I stray from the Japanese side of things. But who knows, if this video is popular enough, I might actually do some other things like that. And speaking of which, for anyone who is new to the channel that is maybe coming from a different walk of life that isn't anime, manga, or Japanese gaming based, welcome to the channel. This channel doesn't get very many views anyway, so there's probably even some people that are into that kind of stuff that are checking this out for the first time. But this is kind of a new thing for me, but I'm glad to have any audience that I can. If you're new to the channel and you like what you heard, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe and all that jazz. I'm not really pushing anything because I don't push for that kind of stuff. But I really like what I got to write for this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I actually have some pretty big news coming up, and some plans that I had come up with a friend, specifically the one that I mentioned in a previous video, and that will be some news that I'll probably make another video about later on, maybe within the next week or so, and I'll explain that as the time comes. We're going to be doing something new that could be really interesting, and that's related to this channel, but I'll explain that another time. Thanks for checking out the video, and I will let you get going on your way. So have a great day then.